Learning objectives. Following completion of this session, participants will be able to heavy checkmark describe the principles and guidance of the CLSI Quality System Essential QC. Equipment management heavy checkmark list the factors to consider before purchasing laboratory equipment. Heavy checkmark manage the selection and acquisition of new equipment. Heavy checkmark describe the requirements for qualifying equipment before putting it into use. Learning objectives continued. Following completion of this session, participants will be able to heavy check mark list the factors to consider when developing calibration programs. Heavy check mark list the factors to consider when developing maintenance programs. Heavy check mark explain how to retire old or outdated equipment. Heavy check mark manage equipment records. Introduction to Quality System Essential QC Equipment Management. QC Equipment Management. QC equipment management describes heavy checkmark selection and installation of equipment, heavy checkmark equipment maintenance and calibration, heavy checkmark documentation of equipment related problems, heavy checkmark maintenance of records to ensure equipment performs as expected for its intended use. QC equipment management and ISO. ISO 15189 to 2022, ISO/IC 17025 to 2017, ISO 9001 to 2015 equipment MANA 6.4 equipment 6.5 calibration and metrological traceability 6.4 equipment 6.5 metrological traceability 7.1.5.2 measurement traceability. QC equipment management, supplier qualification and procurement. Policy processes procedures SQ and procurement bullet operator process to select equipment bullet operator setting criteria for the selection based on laboratory and customer needs. Bullet operator identifying potential hazards of the equipment to reduce risk of harm to the operator or facility. Bullet operator laboratories or organizations processes to procure equipment. Bullet operator making procurement requests. Bullet operator preparing agreements. The laboratory needs a process to qualify suppliers, make selection decisions, and procure equipment. This process is often called selection qualification, SQ. The SQ process consists of the following four parts: identifying the necessary functional specifications and facility, environmental, and engineering requirements for each piece of equipment the laboratory wants to procure. Comparing the laboratory's expectations with the supplier's functional specifications, capabilities, and requirements offerings, assessing and comparing procurement alternatives, such as purchase, lease, or rent, recording specifications, requirements, comparisons, decisions made, justification for the ultimate selection, and follow-up actions taken. QC equipment management, supplier qualification and procurement. QC equipment management, equipment qualification. Policy processes procedures equipment qualifications bullet operator process to identify laboratory equipment. Bullet operator initiating an equipment master file. Bullet operator verifying the contents of the equipment master file. Bullet operator process to perform IQ. Bullet operator recording the results of the IQ. Bullet operator reviewing and approving the IQ. Bullet operator process to perform OQ. Bullet operator recording the results of the OQ. Bullet operator reviewing and approving the OQ. Bullet operator processes to perform PQ process to validate equipment process to verify equipment. Bullet operator recording the results of the validation. Bullet operator recording the results of the verification. Bullet operator reviewing and approving the PQ. Bullet operator re-verifying IQ, OQ, and PQ after moving equipment. Bullet operator process to authorize personnel who will use equipment. Bullet operator recording who is authorized to use the equipment. Bullet operator processes to perform IQ, OQ, and PQ on computer systems. Bullet operator performing a system upgrade. The laboratory needs an equipment qualification process that includes processes for identification, installation qualification, IQ, operational qualification, OQ, and performance qualification, PQ. Identifying equipment can be as simple as, for example, refrigerator number 1, refrigerator number 2, etc. A master equipment register shall be maintained, along with a calendar for required maintenance and replacement. QC equipment management, equipment qualification. IQ is the process for installing equipment and ensuring it meets predetermined environmental and manufacturer requirements. Often the IQ is done by the manufacturer slash supplier slash distributor following an installation checklist. During the IQ, the presence of all system components and environmental needs, e.g., power and water availability, are verified. The operator's manual setup instructions shall be followed, with any deviations recorded. The laboratory shall approve the results of the IQ before proceeding to the OQ. QC Equipment Management, IQ. The OQ is the process for confirming that the equipment is operational in its location and the manufacturer's intended use. OQ includes activities such as power-up, initial calibration, and verification of functionality. The OQ must be approved by the laboratory before proceeding to the PQ. QC Equipment Management, OQ. QC Equipment Management, PQ. The PQ confirms that the equipment performs as intended in the laboratory, using the laboratory's personnel, processes, and procedure documents. It confirms that the equipment produces acceptable results under normal operating conditions, meets all accreditor and organizational requirements, and is consistent with the manufacturer's claims. Verification testing. The heavy checkmark the laboratory sets the criteria for acceptable performance and determine whether the testing results meet the criteria. Heavy checkmark the PQ must be performed by the laboratory personnel, not the manufacturer. Heavy checkmark the IQ, OQ, and PQ must all be acceptable before performing patient testing. QC Equipment Management, Calibration Program. Policy processes procedures calibration program bullet operator processes to calibrate measuring and testing equipment bullet operator selecting calibration materials bullet operator performing calibrations bullet operator reviewing the calibration results and taking any necessary follow-up action. For equipment that involves testing and measurements, calibration plans are needed. These plans include heavy check mark schedules for calibrations and calibration verifications, following the manufacturer's recommendations or other requirements for frequency heavy checkmark assignment of scheduled responsibilities, heavy checkmark traceability of calibration standards, heavy checkmark performance, and recording of calibrations and calibration verifications, heavy checkmark analysis of the results of calibrations and calibration verifications, heavy checkmark recording of actions taken when calibration or calibration verifications fail to meet predetermined criteria, heavy checkmark posting of calibration status and date due heavy checkmark posting of any needed adjustments or tolerances. QC Equipment Management, Calibration Program. Heavy checkmark the requirements established by the instrument manufacturer, heavy checkmark the number of calibration verification levels, heavy checkmark the type of calibration verification materials used, heavy checkmark the assigned values of the calibration verification materials, heavy checkmark the frequency of calibration verification, heavy checkmark the acceptable performance limits for the calibration verification when QC materials are used for calibration. Different lot numbers should be used than those used for routine QC testing. QC Equipment Management, Calibration Program. QC Equipment Management, Maintenance Program. Policy processes procedures maintenance program bullet operator process to monitor equipment bullet operator recording temperatures of temperature-controlled equipment bullet operator recording required function. Checks bullet operator processes to perform preventive maintenance bullet operator performing and recording preventive maintenance per the manufacturer's instructions bullet operator process to follow when calibration and/or calibration verification fails to meet acceptable limits bullet operator labeling out of calibration measuring equipment bullet operator processes to troubleshoot equipment bullet operator completing them. Troubleshooting log bullet operator processes to procure equipment service and repair bullet operator contacting the manufacturer's technical support bullet operator recording service and repairs performed bullet operator returning equipment to service following repairs. QC Equipment Management, Maintenance Program. The laboratory needs to develop maintenance plans for instruments and equipment that include heavy checkmark schedules that specify frequency of performing maintenance activities, Per the manufacturer's recommendations or other requirements for frequency heavy checkmark assignment of scheduled responsibilities heavy checkmark performance and recording of maintenance activities heavy checkmark process to record routine service. Performed heavy checkmark process to record non-routine service and repairs heavy checkmark evaluation of any electrical safety and emergency stop features. Maintenance plans need to be consistent with the operator's manual after any repairs, adjustments, or significant maintenance, and before resuming use. The laboratory needs to define, e.g., in a written procedure, the actions for verifying that the equipment functions as expected. Heavy checkmark these actions may include calibration, IQ, OQ, and PQ as necessary to provide objective evidence of proper function. QC Equipment Management Maintenance Program. QC Equipment Management Equipment Decommission. Policy processes procedures decommission of equipment no longer in use bullet operator process to decommission equipment no longer in use bullet operator completing a decommission checklist. QC Equipment Management Equipment Decommission. When an instrument is no longer needed in the laboratory, heavy checkmark the date of decommission should be recorded heavy checkmark any decontamination should be completed heavy checkmark confidential information should be removed heavy checkmark the final disposition should be recorded. QC Equipment Management Equipment Records. Policy processes procedures equipment records bullet operator process to record, manage, and retain all required equipment information bullet operator maintaining equipment records. QC Equipment Management Equipment Records. The laboratory needs to keep the records of instruments and equipment described above. One way to retain all the information in one place is to keep a master file for each instrument or piece of equipment. An equipment master file shall be kept to track the history of a given instrument or piece of equipment from selection to decommission. The equipment master file should include QC Equipment Management Equipment Records. Name of the equipment maintenance records, including follow-up actions of unexpected or outlying results manufacturer's name, model, serial number, and facility identification calibration records, including calibration schedule, analysis of data obtained by calibrations and calibration verifications, and any follow-up actions taken manufacturer service and support contact information problem log dates of receipt and entry into service and repair performed current location decommission date and final disposition IQ, OQ, and PQ records that confirm the equipment's suitability for use. Discussion/activity review. List the ways that this QC applies to your laboratory. List all of the laboratory documents under this QC. Discussion/activity review answers. Laboratory documents for QC equipment management. Heavy checkmark validation/verification documentation matrix heavy checkmark installation qualification protocol and checklist heavy checkmark operational qualification protocol and checklist heavy checkmark performance. Qualification protocol and checklist heavy checkmark calibration schedule template heavy checkmark preventative maintenance record heavy checkmark equipment decontamination label template heavy checkmark equipment decommissioning template heavy checkmark equipment master file template. Quality system essential QC equipment management in practice and application. QC equipment requirements. A. Selection qualification and acquisition B. Equipment qualification C. Calibration program D. Maintenance program E. Decommission of equipment no longer in use F. Equipment files and records. Benefits of a comprehensive equipment management program. 1. Increased performance. Consistent testing. Longer lifespan. Fewer repairs. Benefits of a comprehensive equipment management program. 2. Increased safety. Greater customer satisfaction. Reduced interruption of services. 1. Selection qualification and acquisition activities. Qualifying suppliers. Making selection decisions. Acquiring equipment. 31. 2. Selection qualification and acquisition processes. 1. Identify necessary functional specifications, facility, environment, and engineering requirements. 2. Compare suppliers. Functional specifications, capabilities, requirements, offerings. 3. Assess and compare acquisition alternatives. Purchase, lease, rent. 4. Document the process. 3. Selection qualification and acquisition procedures. Set the criteria, identify any potential hazards or risks, make purchase requests. Provide direction on how to. 4. Needs identification. Equipment needs. Facility requirements. Heavy checkmark performance characteristics. Heavy checkmark cost. Heavy checkmark reagents. 34. 5. Additional considerations. Heavy checkmark easy to use. Heavy checkmark language. Heavy checkmark warranty. Heavy checkmark safety. Heavy checkmark will it fit? 6. Acquisition procedures. Purchase, lease, or rent or receive donations. Heavy checkmark central acquisition. Heavy checkmark bulk procurement. Conditions of contract. 7. Acquisition negotiation. Software and interface information. Installation by manufacturer. Operator manual. Operator training and competency. Trial period. Maintenance program. Ordering of supplies and parts process. Assistance with verification. Reagents. Controls and calibrators. Case study. New analyzer ABC EQ 1. QC equipment requirement application to analyzer ABC selection qualification and acquisition. As a result of the decision to expand the test menu offerings, the laboratory has decided to add a new type of analyzer. The laboratory director and automated testing section supervisor identified necessary functional specifications, identified facility, environment, and engineering requirements, compared suppliers' functional specifications, capabilities and requirements offerings, assessed and compared. Acquisition alternatives contacted other users of the options being considered, documented the selection process. B1. Equipment qualification, identification. Unique identifier. 39. B2. Equipment validation plan. Installation qualification, IQ plan. Operational qualification, OQ plan. Performance qualification, PQ plan. B3. Installation qualification. Installation qualification, IQ, is most commonly done by the manufacturer/supplier/distributor/user for large pieces of equipment. Smaller equipment can be done by staff depending on the complexity. Includes heavy check mark confirming all components have been shipped, heavy check mark ensuring equipment requirements are met, i.e., correct power supply and water supply. Where needed, heavy check mark any assembly or setup needed, heavy check mark verification of operation, heavy check mark documentation of IQ. B4. Operational qualification. Operational qualification, OQ, is most commonly done by the /supplier/distributor together with staff for large pieces of equipment. Smaller equipment can be done by staff depending on the complexity. Includes heavy check mark confirming that the equipment starts up properly, heavy check mark performing the initial calibration. Where needed, heavy check mark verifying functionality, heavy check mark creating records of OQ. B5. Performance qualification. Develop a PQ plan that outlines functional conditions, test cases for evaluating full range of intended use, criteria for acceptable performance, documentation of testing results, evaluation of results against acceptance criteria, follow-up needed when results did not meet criteria, approval process for the plan, approval process for the results of the qualification. Important note, activity needs to be performed by laboratory staff, not the manufacturer. 43. B6. Final requirements before use. Prepare any new policies, processes, or procedures required in accordance with your QMS. Train, assure initial competence, determine who is authorized to use the equipment and their level of authority based on their training and competency. Create records. ready equipment for use. To implement. Case study, new analyzer ABC, EQ2. QC equipment requirement application to analyzer ABC equipment qualification. The automated testing section supervisor will ensure that all of the following have been completed before patient samples are accepted for examination on. New analyzer ABC, assignment of a unique identifier on receipt, approval of the manufacturer's IQ, both pre and post-installation, completion of the OQ, development, approval, and completion of the PQ plan. Collection of all documents for the new equipment, e.g. operators. Manual, parts lists, qualification records, training, and initial competence assessment plans for authorized staff, creation and retention of all records pertaining to the equipment qualification. C1. Calibration Program. Identify which equipment needs calibration. Determine the schedule for calibration. Identify who is responsible for performing calibration. Define traceability criteria for calibration materials. Develop procedures for the calibration of each type of measuring and testing equipment. Train staff on the schedule and procedures. Applies to all instruments and equipment that involve measurements. C2. Calibration procedures. Instructions on performing the calibration, forms or checklists to record the results of the calibration and calibration verification, instructions for analyzing the results, directions for recording actions taken, directions for posting date of completion and next date due, directions for posting any needed adjustments or tolerances. C3. Calibration problems. When equipment cannot be calibrated or does not function properly, immediately remove from service. Out of service, do not use. 48. Case study, new analyzer ABC, EQ3. QC equipment requirement application to analyzer ABC calibration program. The automated testing section supervisor and assigned staff did all of the following. Prepared a calibration schedule for the new analyzer based on the manufacturer's recommendations and accreditation requirements, assigned responsibility for calibration, determined the traceability of calibration materials, developed instructions for calibration, including action taken and analysis of results, where needed, developed forms to. Record calibration, where needed, maintained complete records of calibrations and calibration verifications performed. D1. Maintenance Program. Identify which equipment needs preventive maintenance and routine maintenance. Determine the schedule for maintenance. Identify who is responsible for performing maintenance activities. Develop procedures for maintaining each instrument. Create forms for recording routine and non-routine maintenance. Train staff on the schedule and procedures. Follow manufacturer's recommendations. D2. Maintenance processes and procedures. Instructions on performing the task, forms or checklists to record the results of the maintenance, instructions for the verification of operation following the maintenance, directions for recording actions taken, control of records. Maintenance needs to include case study, new analyzer ABC, EQ4. QC equipment requirement application to analyzer ABC maintenance program according to the operator's manual. Monthly, quarterly, and annual maintenance is needed on the new analyzer. The automated testing section supervisor decided that monthly and quarterly maintenance will be done by assigned testing staff. However, the annual maintenance will be performed by the manufacturer according to the service contract. The automated testing section supervisor also developed instructions and forms to record monthly and quarterly maintenance, reviewed the service contract to verify that it included the annual maintenance, maintained complete records of all maintenance performed. E. Decommission and final disposition. Remove obsolete equipment from service, record the decommission date, decontaminate when there has been contact with biohazard substances, remove all confidential information to alternative storage. Dispose of equipment in accordance with any regulations and safety requirements, record the date of final disposition, maintain records for the decommission and final disposition of equipment. Case study, new analyzer ABC, EQ5. QC Equipment Requirement Application to Analyzer ABCDCOMMSSON and Final Disposition Analyzer ABC is new to the laboratory and will not replace any previous version of equipment. However, in preparing the space for the new analyzer, the automated testing section supervisor found some old equipment under the counter and on some shelves that would no longer be needed. The supervisor decommissioned the equipment by removing it from inadvertent access by staff, recording the date of decommission in each equipment's file, decontaminating equipment that had come into contact with biohazard materials, determining that there was no confidential information to remove, arrange to sell the old equipment, completing the equipment records with the dates of decommission and sale, and final disposition of sold to. F. Equipment files and records. Name of the equipment, manufacturer's name, model, serial number, and facility identification, manufacturer service and support contact information, dates of receipt and entry into service, current location, where appropriate, IQ, OQ and PQ records that confirm the equipment's suitability for use. Maintenance records, including follow-up actions of unexpected or outlying results, calibration records, including analysis of data from calibrations and calibration verifications, and any follow-up actions taken, problem log, service and repair records, decommission date, and final disposition. At a minimum, these files include the following records. Case study, new analyzer ABC, EQ 6. QC Equipment Requirement Application to Analyzer ABC equipment files and records. The Automated Testing Section Supervisor created a new file folder for Analyzer ABC, which will be stored in the equipment file cabinet. In the file, she will store the following as they were created: IQ, OQ, and PQ records that confirmed the new analyzer's suitability for use, calibration records, including analysis of data obtained from calibrations and calibration verifications, and any follow-up actions taken. Maintenance records, including follow-up actions of unexpected or outlying results. Records of service and repair performed. She created a problem log that will be kept next to the new analyzer so that problems can be recorded as they occur with extra space to record the corrective actions that were taken. Key messages: high level of performance and greater confidence in the reliability of results, fewer interruptions in test performance, lower repair costs, and elimination of premature replacement of equipment. Increased safety results from well-maintained equipment, documented evidence of what happened to the equipment over its lifetime. A well-organized equipment maintenance program provides QC equipment management. Conclusion: take care of your toys, and they will be there when you want them. Everyone's mother. Thank you.